When cruise lines advertise their cruises, you'll see beautiful people enjoying the balcony cabin life. Over a third of cabins on cruise ships don't have balconies though, and loads of them don't even have windows. The average hotel room in the US is 95% bigger than the average cruise ship cabin, and on my last cruise I booked the absolute cheapest cabin available on the ship. There was not a single cabin anywhere on the ship cheaper than the one I booked. I booked an inside cabin and I didn't pick the specific cabin location. That did save me money, but it meant that until around a week before the cruise, I had no idea where my cabin would be. I was sailing on the newest and the biggest cruise ship for the British cruise line P&O Cruises. The cruise ship was called Iona, and as she was brand new, I was really hoping that my cabin would be nice. Iona has 19 decks and there's inside cabins all the way from deck 4 up to deck 16. I could have been right at the front of the ship, I could have been right at the back of the ship. Anywhere in between. I had no idea where my cabin was going to be. I was secretly hoping that I wouldn't be given a cabin right at the bottom of the ship. I like to take the stairs as much as I can, and a 10-story walk to the buffet would have been a bit much. Apart from that though, I wasn't too worried about my cabin location, and it's a good job I wasn't, because the location I was given many people would consider to be one of the worst locations on the ship. All cruise lines will have their deck plans on the website, so usually what happens is when you're assigned your cabin number, you will rush to the website, you'll look through the deck plans, and you'll try and find your cabin. I did manage to find ours right at the front of deck 11. When we were walking to our cabin, I thought I knew what to expect. I have stayed in inside cabins before, but my last couple of cruises have been in balcony cabins. I did wonder if that would change my perspective going back into an inside cabin. So many people tell me that once you've cruised in a balcony, you'll never go back inside. And I wanted to find out. I definitely wasn't looking forward to waking up in the dark. That's one of my least favourite things about inside cabins, but I did have a plan for that. I was staying in the inside cabin with my brother Max, and I hoped that that small space wouldn't cause us to bicker about things. I have stayed in an inside cabin before with my parents and my brother, 4 people in an inside cabin, and I wouldn't recommend that to everybody. It's quite tight, 4 people in an inside cabin. The inside cabin that we were staying in was around 130 square foot, and the average shipping container, a standard 1-story shipping container, starts at around 150 square foot. Shipping containers and cruise ship cabins aren't too dissimilar. Cruise ship cabins are all created one after the other in these little boxes, and then they're just slid into the side of the cruise ships, fully made. It is amazing. Often when I take a cruise with my brother and we share a cabin, when we first go into the room, we will be greeted by a double bed. Me and my brother have the same surname, so I think it is assumed that we were married, but P&O asked us before the cruise, would you like a double or a queen size bed? We picked twins and they did it. I didn't have to ask for the beds to be separated like I normally do, so that was a really good start to this cruise. First impressions of the cabin were that it was bright, it was clean, and it did feel very spacious. I'm pretty sure that this inside cabin was slightly thinner than inside cabins I've had on other cruise ships, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like we had plenty of space. I've never felt claustrophobic in an inside cabin, and to be honest, I feel more claustrophobic in an ocean view cabin, which is basically exactly the same as an inside cabin but with a window. Something about being able to see outside but not get outside makes me feel a little bit more claustrophobic. I'm still fine, but more than an inside cabin. The windows in ocean view cabins do not open. They used to, and there's all kinds of rumours about how the Titanic sank faster because everybody went to have a look and open the windows. Don't quote me on that one though, I'm not completely sure how true that is, but in modern cruise ships you will not be able to open the window if you have a window in your cabin. One thing that definitely is a drawback about inside cabins is the lack of natural light. If you turn off all of the lights, if it's 3 AM, if it's 3 PM, it makes no difference, it'll be completely dark. Some people absolutely love the darkness of inside cabins and they get the best sleep of their life in there. For me, I don't really like it, and what I do to combat that is I bring a sunrise alarm clock. It basically lights up over about half an hour so that you don't wake up in the complete darkness. I hate that feeling of going from darkness and then turning on the lights. It makes your eyes sting, it makes me grumpy for the rest of the day, and this light just helps with that. I have tried various different brands over the years, but this is the one I've settled with because it's quite small, it's quite light, and it was quite cheap. I'll put the link to it in the description. Generally speaking, when it comes to cruise ship cabin design and what is actually in the cabins, there's not much difference between the cabin categories. If you were to look at an inside cabin and look at an ocean view cabin on the same ship, the only difference really is that extra window. The design will be the same in balcony cabins, it will be a bit bigger and you do have that outside space, but you're going to have the same colours, the same photos, they're all going to look the same on the same ship. I really like the design of this cabin, but of course that is personal preference. There's all kinds of cabins out there. After a little while in our cabin, our luggage did arrive at the door. When you go on a cruise, you will check in the terminal and you will give in your bags. They have your luggage tags on them so they know how to get to your room, and they appear just like magic. We decided once we had our luggage to unpack a little bit and to settle in. I had heard before this cruise that there wasn't much storage in P&O Iona's cabins. Me and my brother do travel pretty light, but because we were travelling from a home port, we decided we might as well bring bigger suitcases and bring as many clothes as we wanted. For two of us, Iona had plenty of storage. It might have been a bit more of a struggle if there was more than two of us, but for the two of us, it was perfectly fine. I have stayed in other modern cruise ships that have a lot less storage than P&O's Iona. We had this little section for hanging with shelves on the side, shelves on the other side, and shelves under the TV. We decided to put our suitcases under the bed just to kind of get them out the way, and I tend to always throw things like my shoes just at the bottom of the hanging part of the wardrobe. One big complaint that I hear about cruise ship cabins all the time is the type and the number of plug sockets. After we embarked the cruise, my phone was on about 20% battery, so I really needed an instant recharge. Looking at the desk, that is normally where you'll find most of the plug sockets. I saw that we had 2 UK plug sockets, being on a UK cruise line, and also 1 European socket. There are no US sockets here, and on most cruise lines you'll find US sockets, but British Cruise Line, British plug sockets. I didn't see any USBs there over by the desk, and I do like it when I'm on a cruise ship and it has USBs, but I thought to myself, maybe if I'm lucky, maybe they'll be over by the bed. Sometimes they are. Going over to the bed, I saw that we had a USB just under the lamp on both sides, and also UK plug sockets by the bed. The actual plug sockets by the bed are brilliant for people who need the CPAP machines or various other machines when they sleep. It's quite rare to find a cabin that has actual plug sockets by the bed, so good work P&O, nice touch Iona. I will say that the USB in the lamp was incredibly slow charging, and it normally is. If I wanted to charge my phone because we were going out, I would always use a plug that was on the desk. If I was laying in bed though, updating my Instagram, I would normally just have the USB plugged into the lamp. It meant that my battery didn't really drain, and it did slightly charge. It was just pretty slow. It didn't take me very long to explore the cabin's bathroom because the cabin's bathroom was fairly small. Cruise ship cabin bathrooms tend to just have a toilet, a sink and a shower. If you're lucky, you might have some storage space like we had these shelves on the side, but generally speaking, that's it for cruise ship bathrooms. There's not much variety that they can have in a place that is so small. Cruise ship toilets are pretty different to the toilets that you'll find on land because they work with suction. What happens behind the scenes to all of the sewage is very clever, and I think it's quite interesting. I do have information about that on my website, but I appreciate that it's quite a niche interest, the sewage of cruise ships. But if you like to, check that out on my website. The smallest cruise ship bathroom that I've ever had was on board Virgin Voyage's Scarlet Lady. That really is a tiny bathroom. I have even had cruise ship bathrooms that have actual baths in them. Most of them do not have baths, it's just a shower. But this one on P&O's Iona was pretty standard. It worked well for us. Most cruise lines will provide some toiletries in the cabins for free. P&O use the White Company and they'll provide the soap that's by the sink. They also provide body wash and shampoo in the shower. I used both for the duration of our cruise, and it smelled nice, so hopefully I smelled nice on that cruise. The only thing that I didn't like about the bathroom was the way that the towels were behind your head when you were on the toilet. There wasn't anywhere else that the towels could have gone in the cabin though, so it does make sense. And the shower was also missing that tiny little step that they often have in cruise ship showers. I'm guessing it's so that you can shave your legs or put your leg up. I don't know, but it wasn't there on Iona. Definitely not the end of the world though. It was a good shower. I was very happy with my cabin on deck 11. The kind of middle atrium area of the ship is on deck 6, 7, 8, me on 11, and then the buffet and the pool on kind of 15 and 16. I was at the complete opposite end to the buffet though, and I do visit the buffet quite a lot when I cruise, so I just hope that that long walk to the buffet would be worth it. Usually when I'm on a cruise, I have to wake up, I have to get dressed, and I have to walk to the buffet to get my first cup of tea in the morning. On P&O cruises though, there is no such problem. Every cabin comes with its own kettle, and all of the bits and pieces that you need for tea are replenished every single day. I don't think I can say how much of a big difference that makes to my cruising experience, but I absolutely love it and it makes me happy multiple times per day if there's a kettle in the cabin. Modern cruise ships aren't like the old school ocean liners where your cabin controlled where you could go. There might be certain specific suite areas if you want to get into that on cruise ships, but if you have a balcony cabin or if you have an inside cabin, you have access to the same ship. You've paid for everything. The way I see it, you might as well be out there and enjoying as much of it as you can. When we left our cabin in the morning to go to breakfast or for lunch, we would set our room to be made up. I was surprised to see that P&O used magnets, as in a physical way to show if you want to be do not disturb or make up room. Most modern cruise ships will have some sort of button that's inside the cabin that you press to show if you want to be on do not disturb or make up room. There's nothing really to stop people from taking this magnet and turning it over. I thought it was interesting that they had stuck with kind of a physical way to show when you want your room made up. It worked though, it worked very well. On P&O cruises at the moment, your cabin is only cleaned once per day. It used to be cleaned twice a day, but once a day works perfectly for me. I have seen quite a few people online though, in certain groups, really throwing a wobbly about this. Your Britishism of the week is throwing a wobbly, because what an amazing phrase throwing a wobbly is. If you're throwing a wobbly, you're basically having a tantrum, you're angry, you're annoyed. You might see a child or an adult and say, oh, they're throwing a wobbly. I think everyone should use the throwing a wobbly phrase. The more I say it, the more ridiculous it sounds. We were cruising in Northern Europe in October, and most people will tell you that if you suffer from seasickness, like unfortunately I do, you should avoid a cabin at either end of the ship. It's generally accepted that cabins in the middle feel less movement than those at the ends, but I'm happy to say that even though we encountered a storm on this cruise, we actually came back to port a day early to avoid the worst of the bad weather. I didn't feel seasick at any point on this cruise. I really didn't feel the movement much at all. It may be that Iona just handled the movement particularly well. Modern cruise ships do have really good stabilizers, or it may have been that the captain was just doing a good job of keeping us out of the way of bad weather. For me personally, even though I do get seasick on occasion, the price saving is worth it to me to have a cabin at one end of the ship. I've never really had a problem with that. I paid around £60 per night for this cabin, not just for this cabin, but also for my food, for my entertainment, for the entire cruise, £60 a night, which is around $80. There used to be a cruise line that you could cruise on for $10 per night. The cabins definitely weren't as nice as this one on P&O's Iona, and the company did make a few questionable business decisions, but I would give it a go. Watch this video next and let me know if you try this cruise line.